So I like to give very practical advice. So grow food. No, I'm just kidding. See, you didn't expect me to say that. And for most people, when they come across information that can change or potentially alter their entire life forever, and then their children, they don't expect it. People don't expect the world to collapse and like COVID or 2008 or 9/11 and some of these big events. They don't expect something to happen to them where they start to see angels, or they don't expect to find love and then all of a sudden they find love. They don't expect to meet, let's say, Mike Adams or some popular podcast host as I have, and then like, wow, okay, now I'm talking to this person and that person, or Mark Passio. Like in every scenario of my life, I take willpower, I take opportunities, I observe, I reflect, and I try to do the best I can. But at the same time, I realize there's just a profound trust, a trust in following the path, in that there isn't the much room for expectation. Because I can very well have the expectation of, I need to reach more people with my message, or this video needs to go viral. And now there's like trends on TikTok where people are like, I want to go viral, I want to go viral. And if you keep saying it, you'll go viral. And then if you just click every single button on the screen, I mean, we live in a world where people are expecting a lot of things, right? Oh, I think someone's going to judge me like this. If I don't do this, this is what's going to happen. If I don't do this, like, they're judging themselves and they have preconceptions of what they think they know or what other people know about them, and it gets in the way of their action. It gets in the way of their trust because of these expectations that are now creating social confines and dishonesty and boundaries where there doesn't need to be, right? So I'm saying this as a reassurance, a reformation, right? People listen to affirmations, sort of affirm where someone is at, well, or something that they need to understand. Just as you're listening to a video and you don't know the next thing I'm going to say, or just as you listen to a song and you might expect to hear a certain sound, but there's a reason why you're listening to it, because you don't entirely expect the certain sound. Like you'll listen to a same track over and over again because you love the experience each time you're listening to the track, because you're present. You're not thinking, okay, I can't wait till the end of the song when it's over. Like, you want to experience the song just as you want to experience the dance. You don't have the expectation or the judgment. You don't look up at the stars at night and you say, this star is out of place, and this star, it's not supposed to be there, and this star is right and that one is bad. You kind of just accept it for what it is, and then you embrace it, right? And then you move forward with that. You say, maybe, okay, there's a constellation here and maybe there's like patterns here, but even then, just within the scope of how there's all these different stars, I mean, what a beautiful sight. And that beauty comes from that uniqueness and that freedom, which doesn't have these confines of judgment, expectation, and identity. And these are the illusions that we trap ourselves in. And we do it in the freedom movement. We do it in truth seekers. The expectation that all these people are eventually going to wake up, or that the world is going to collapse, or that, these people need this or need that, or they need to listen to me. And that, if without this certain teaching, everybody won't be free. And if without everybody growing food, people won't be free. And while we can recognize there may be requirements to get from point A to point B, what we don't see is that it's not actually going to be carried out like that. Plans never go according to plan. The way we think things are going to end up, almost always, I'm not going to say always, almost always, it ends up not the way we entirely expect. And people can predict things in history and like, wow, this person predicted it, but it's still not entirely the same. Someone could put a date on it. They can try to get really specific. It's still not entirely the same. AI can predict things, as it has been, and people are predicting the future of AI. But how many writers of the past predicted that AI would exist the way it does? Nobody really had the expectation. And you can say that's a part ignorance, but recognizing ignorance, as Socrates says, is how we attain knowledge. So it's recognizing what we don't know, which is how we know, ironically, and also provides us with humility, which also helps us see where we have unnecessary expectations, where we have unnecessary judgment, unnecessary perceptions blocking us from another's perception, blocking us from learning from another. See, when I'm doing my on-the-street interviews, it's the same principle. I'm listening to people, I'm hearing their story, and no matter where they are at, I am merely just listening. And then, yes, I still share my opinion. Yes, I still share my thoughts because I'm human and I'm honest. And this is bias, and this is not a bad thing. You can be honest without being mean. You can be real without being offensive or, crazy. But we get in our own head. We say, oh, well, they're going to think of me as crazy if I say this or if I do this. And maybe that's actually true, but you don't have to associate with those people. Or maybe you can readjust that and help them see that it's not crazy. The possibility is the very thing that is freedom, right? Because freedom includes the possibility to do as you please. Once you limit the possibility, you're limiting the freedom. So when you have an expectation, you're limiting the possibility because you have a set idea of this is what it is. And I have on the back wall here, which is something I now share in a lot of my videos and live streams, which is this idea of neti neti, which helps us actually return to who we are by knowing what we are not. And this is similar to the idea of apophasis, knowing what is from knowing what is not. So for instance, that it's wrong to murder, to steal, to rape, trespass, and, all these different things, coercion, to lie, right? And from these very basic principles that most people understand, we can understand, okay, well, I have the right to pretty much do everything else, like drink this water and speak in this microphone and speak to you on camera. But nobody's going around saying, oh, you have the right to speak on a microphone. They say you have the freedom of speech because it's just a popular catchphrase. And we're familiar with some of the things that we're conditioned to say, the things we're conditioned to do. Society has expectations of us, and then we program ourselves with certain expectations as to certain language we use. It would be strange if I start to speak as though I am from the Founding Fathers, although that's a persona I'm now doing through a channel called The Victorian Man. And by the way, I'm doing that. Kind of just shared with you a life update through this video. In the same way, it would be strange if I were to start speaking like Shakespeare, and people would not be used to it, and people might admire it, and other people might think that's like, why are you talking like that? That can't be real. Does it matter? I mean, there's a reason why that language is respected. I mean, he created his own words. Talk about not expecting that, but yet becoming one of the most infamous writers of all time, perhaps, and maybe, I don't know, I was kind of forced in a way to read Shakespeare in school, but a lot of that is also lacking, and people are seeing need to go back to that. Like, I walk around with my Victorian outfit and people don't expect it, and they're like, wow, we need more of that. And I'm like, yeah, we should bring back the Victorian ballroom dancing, right? So people are seeing the expectations and then they're breaking them, often because they find out they're at odds with reality, and that they can only hold it for so long, just as they can only hold a lie or a judgment for so long, even if it's, again, about themselves. And a persona, similarly, I can have a persona, but I still have to know who I am, because this persona is usually based on something that is past, right? Or something that is like some certain outfit. So these are the disclaimers that we have to make, not just for videos, but for ourselves in our life as we go on our day-to-day life. Do we have a moment of reflection? Do we have a moment where we say, is this right, before moving forward? The disclaimers are so important to make, which is why Mark Passio in his Natural Law Seminar starts with like 5 to 10 minutes of just like, don't judge me for the way I look, for the way I talk, blah, 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 because it gets in people's heads. Those expectations ruin the rest of the presentation, which is like 9 hours of so much knowledge that somebody can take. And again, they can listen to anybody. They can listen to me. Somebody could be listening to me right now who've never heard of me, and they have a gazillion expectations of what I'm going to say or an agenda I'm going to push. And that's because so many other people do. So it's like all men are bad because this one man did some bad action, or it's like guilt by association. All these ingredients are bad because this one ingredient is bad. It's like we simplify our logic to group things together, to make these expectations, to make it easier so we don't have to look at the shadows of our world, so we don't have to look at our ego. And let me tell you, when it comes to the ego and these shadows, there is such profound teachings within them that I continue to, you can say, grapple with, but understand day by day. It absolutely profound. And I make these videos, heartfelt videos, because I tell you guys that these are important, and people actually end up watching them more than my regular videos, which is profound. But I think the world is craving reality, and we're so much used to pretension. We're so used to hearing what we want to hear, or hearing what is professional, and people are starting to turn things on its head. And people have been doing this for a long time in various ways, but there's moments in history where it becomes more apparent. And I think, we're in that time as people are struggling. I mean, it's no surprise to people I talk to on the street who are struggling the most, who are doing drugs, or who are destroying themselves, are willing to be the most honest with me. I mean, they're willing to open up, and they maybe even have insane insights, and they just say it like it is because they have nothing left to lose. They're not holding on to any strings in their own head. They're like, listen, this is what it is. And then they smoke their cigarette, and they're like, this is what it is, right? It's like Alan Watts going on TV saying, it's going to be the end of the world. And, if we keep going in this direction, there won't be an America. It's the same principle, basically. But I see these types of trends, and in psychology, it's such a profound work. I want to remind you guys about healthrevealed.org. We keep publishing new videos on that channel and on that website, and the explorations on there have been extremely profound for my personal life, because I've realized the power of spirituality more than I ever have. I mean, look at the work of Bill Donahue, right? And you're going to be like, wow, how come I've never seen a preacher like this before? He's not a preacher at all. People leave his seminars. That's a good sign. It's these things like, conspiracy that I purposely go into because I know if people fear it or people don't want to look into it, that there's something there worth of value. Because again, the expectation is blocking something more. It's blocking the possibility. So, people say, I want love, I want this, I want that. And there's a whole movement of people who are like, you got to attract it, right? You don't want to have to push for it. You don't want to have to chase it. You can attract it. Well, if that's the case, then I'd say trust is quite an important part of that process. In the same way, we can say, you should pray, you should have a relationship with God. Well, if your relationship is really strong and you love each other, he should understand where you're at. He understands, he watches you, he knows everything, right? But that means you don't really need to beg for change or even ask him of anything, because he knows if somebody loves you enough, they give you a gift, they help you on their own by your surprise. And you're like, wow, this is what they do for me because they love me, they trust me. So I trust the universe so much that I don't need to beg or ask for permission or anything, because I get it. I put myself in certain circumstances, and nature and God gives me the results ultimately. And I see it, whether it's in my dreams, whether it's in meditation, one way or another, I see it in some sort of manifestation. And it's so amazing to realize these simple, powerful things, because I'm coming to realize the psychology that is really should be probably shared among the youth, should have been taught in my former years. And as I've gone down the rabbit hole and thought, this is the key and this is what everybody should learn, I've gotten to the point where I'm able to entertain any idea and not be attached to any idea. I don't have to go on the streets and say natural law is the only way, or veganism, or objective morality, or statism, or anarchism, or whatever. These concepts can draw people away because we just came across them and left one cult to another, and not realizing these terms are going to pull us away from the very message that we want to share. like the revolutionary who's like, we're going to create a better world by violently opposing the current system. It's like, that's how that system was created. The ironic thing is that the people who want to change the system are sometimes just as bad, if not worse, or creating the worse system in replacement. Uh, so this type of shadow work, this type of inner work is something that I think needs to be addressed. And I know people are creating different works on this. Mark has like this major seminar coming out about that. And I expect it to be powerful, but people are going to go in with the expectation watching the seminar, especially people who are already familiar with Mark's work, and they're going to say, all right, well, here are my expectations. Now I'm going to watch the seminar. And that's going to be a hindrance to their own teaching, to their own progress. The most progress they'll make will be on their own and not from any teacher. And I think Mark and other people say that in their teachings, but no matter how much they say it, they can only say it so much. The truth is that it's going to come from people. It's going to come from things they don't expect. It's going to come from words and concepts and perspectives that are not in the seminar. And you're not going to expect, because everybody lives different environments and they're exposed to different words and different people. And that's how I believe we're going to really shift things, is when we're in tune with where is this current community at and what do people currently want. I'm going to be offering Qigong classes locally, and seeing as there's certain needs for the community that aren't currently provided, seeing growing food as a potential solution. You can say I have expectations of, okay, I want the community to participate in this or that, but I'm merely doing what I see is a place that needs to be fulfilled, right? So is it really an expectation or just fulfillment? Really just falling into place. And as you open your mind to the possibility and talk to others about it, it starts to just fall into place. No expectation needed. So this is what has been happening to me in my life. And you can call it synchronicity, you can call it attraction, but this is what I see as a very powerful key to change. And so trust, be open, don't attach, and neti, which means, you are natural, you are true once you strip away all these identities. And the same thing with the circle of enlightenment, or the Enso in Zen Japanese Buddhism. It's the same concept, right? It's like it's an incomplete circle, but it's also pretty much complete, because you can tell it's a circle as one draws the very stroke. It's an act of meditation because one is present. So, I made that, and my name above there is Kali, which means internal law. We're still finding out who we are. And that process never ends. And just through that recognition of, okay, I don't know everything, and I'm always learning, humility teaches us not to have expectation, and it teaches us to be open, and it teaches us morality. There's no need for definition. There's no need for all these frameworks. We're addicted to structure. We're addicted to frameworks, and even when you escape them, you're addicted to the structure of non-structure. But the truth is that it's the yin and the yang. And as people go into the 3D to the 4D, there is the 5D, which is the integration of both the 3D and the 4D. Some people stay stuck in the 4D and others stay stuck in the 3D, and both can be helpful if you master one or the other, but you can master both. And that is recognizing integration of both the mental and the spiritual, or otherwise masculine and feminine, right? The material and the somatic. Recognizing that your mind thinks, but your body acts, and without one or the other, it's like the mind and the body are connected. You want to get out of your mind and into the body, well, they're all just one and the same. There is no mind. The mind is just comprised of beliefs and certain knowledge and concepts, but the intelligence is throughout, and you're connected to other people as well. So when you say, I have a human design, I have the zodiac, I have this thing, it's like, what does it matter? You have to look from someone else's point of view in order to evolve yourself. So you're not that thing that the human design tells you. You're not that thing that the zodiac tells you. It doesn't really help to learn that. As a reflection tool, sure, okay, it can help to learn about, just like reading tarot cards. But once you actually get a reading of yourself or of the reality, and you take that as literal, just as people take the Bible literally and not through different perspectives like parables and analogies, it gets tricky. And again, it's a shortcut to intelligence. It's a shortcut to the reality which comprises of perspective, of possibility. And that possibility is getting out of the mind to then see the mind. It's becoming a witness. It's creating the gap between the two eyes for the third eye. It's creating the gap between the inhale and the exhale so you can be present. And that gap is so essential. It's the observer and the observed. You're watching this, that's the observed, but the observer is you. And in between are these expectations and thoughts. You become a witness to that, and then you're able to say, okay, interesting. I'm just going to witness it. I'm just going to become aware of it. Because simply by being aware of something, you will be able to choose when the time is right what to do. And the problem is people are kept away from their own awareness, not even what to be aware of, because if the truth is all around them, you can find it. The problem is people can't find it because their eyes literally have been shut. It's not even a process of, you can say that's not analogy, right? It's literally been shut. Well, it is an analogy, but in the sense that they can't see to begin with. It's the same thing when I say, oh, well, people worry about freedom of speech. I'm worried about freedom and speech. It's the basic essentials, which is nature, that is lost when we're trapped in the material, mental world, the masculine imbalance. And again, don't get me wrong, there is a feminine imbalance. But as things shift from one end to the other, as one realizes they are a zodiac and another is a different zodiac, then comes the balance. There's no expectation as to say, I am this and this is the way it must be. Like you're a projector or you're a generator, so therefore you should not generate if you're a projector, and you should not project if you're a generator. Like this is nonsense, right? If you take the Myers-Briggs test, it's not actually to find out where you are. People take it literally and they say this is what it's for, is to find out what personality I have. Actually, the real test is finding out how you interact with the test to begin with. How you go about with that test and what it means to you in the long scheme of things. This is why people don't understand Jordan Peterson. Because looking at the deeper things in our reality requires seeing shadows. And that's stuff people don't want to face. It's just in the face of, again, what is easy to see. I am a Christian, I am an atheist, and I still defend my positions I shared on my video defending Jordan Peterson. People did not understand it. And I expected that. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to go back on my word on that. Because when you create confusion, as Osho said, my whole work is to confuse you, that is actually quite good in the sense that you are creating a lack of expectation. You're showing people a new path. You're using paradox, which is the way mystics and a lot of ancient texts talk about. They talk in paradox because it shows a greater perspective. And it's like, well, that's not practical. That's not real. See, that right there is an evidence of the mind that wants to contract, that wants to constrict, that wants to categorize. Once you become a witness to merely that, then you see, okay, this is where I'm categorizing and this is where I'm whimsical and too creative. That's when you're able to see the balance. It's the gap between, it's the middle path. So no more expectation, more trust, you can say. But even then, see the nuance in everything to where you can see nothing. And I guess that goes very well with my latest book, The Arts and Books of Opposites, which also goes by the name Taboo. So thank you very much for watching. This is Corey Angelaz, Nature is the Answer. I actually just did this after doing a whole day in 100-degree weather in my Victorian outfit. But that doesn't stop me from sharing truth or freedom and connecting with people, because that's what it takes in this world. So follow me on my channels for The Victorian Man, and follow me for more great stuff coming soon. Always experimenting, seeing what to do, and not having much expectation, because I've been creating different progress in places I never would have expected, because I merely am following my passion and doing this because I see the greater need for humanity. So thank you very much for following me on this path, and make sure to follow yourself most of all.